Hi, my name is Candous Parker, and today I'll be answering some of the internet's most asked questions about drayage. So let's get right into it. Our first question we have today is, what is drayage and how does it work? This is a great question. I know as a customer, you're probably wondering, what in the world does drayage even mean? What is that? So essentially, drayage is the local movement of a container from point A to point B. That point A and point B can be from moving it from a terminal to the receiver or from a shipper back to the terminal itself. How does drayage work? Well, there are two different forms of drayage. We have what we call imports and then what we have called exports. If you have an import container, essentially that container is coming in to the United States from another country into a terminal, let's say Los Angeles, for example. And as your logistics advisor here, as your business development representative, as your account manager, what we're here to do is coordinate the movement of that container, picking up from the terminal and delivering to its final receiver, whether it's a warehouse or a store. And then the second form of drayage we have is what we call an export. So again, we have freight. Let's say you have freight as the customer, you have a load of t-shirts, for example, and those t-shirts need to go onto a ship to go out of the country, maybe to Germany, right? What we'll do here at Trinity Logistics is, again, we will coordinate the movement of that container. So for the export, we will have a carrier for you. They will pick up an empty container from the terminal. They're gonna take that container to your shipper, whether it's that warehouse or that store. That container is gonna get loaded, and then that loaded container is going to be returned back to the terminal, back to that port, even back to that rail. And what's gonna happen from there is that's when it's loaded onto the ship or the vessel, and it is shipped overseas, wherever that final destination may be. Our next question we have, why is it called drayage? I love this question. This is something I learned myself once I did some more digging. So the actual term dray is the movement of freight in a local setting, so very local move. And what the word dray stems from is actually moving that freight or moving something heavy in a cart or a wagon that doesn't have sides. And typically this used to be done using horses. So you used to have dray horses using dray carts. So essentially the containers have now replaced the horses, right? And then we're still moving that freight from point A to point B, but in a very local setting. So usually less than 100, 200 miles. Our next question that we have, what is the difference between drayage and freight? So we've talked a little bit about why is it called drayage, what is drayage, and how does it work, right? So drayage itself is the movement of the freight. But what is the freight, right? The freight itself is gonna be that freight that you have. So whether you have that load of t-shirts, that load of olive oil, that load of car parts, right? The freight is going to be the actual product that's being moved via drayage. Our next question we have here, what is demurrage? I love this question also because I used to be the one on the team who used to always pronounce this word wrong. It does look like demurrage, but it's really pronounced demurrage. So as a customer, you may hear this term, you may see it from time to time. Sometimes we call it storage. So essentially the way demurrage works, once your container arrives to an actual terminal or a port, that terminal or port is going to give your container a certain amount of days that it can sit there for free. Let's say the container arrives on June 5th, it's got 3 free days. So on that third day, let's say June 7th, so you have June 5th, June 6th, and June 7th. Once June 7th happens, that's gonna be what's called your last free day or your LFD. You will hear that term very often as well. Once you hit June 8th, that is gonna be that first day of demurrage that the terminal is charging you. So the storage that a terminal is gonna be charging for that container to sit there because it is taking up space in their yard. Our next question here is, why is drayage important? As a customer, you may be wondering, why is drayage such a big deal? You know, I hear it all the time, I hear about containers. What do I need to know about it, right? So drayage is important because it's another mode and another way to move your freight. You know, versus just LTL and standard truckload, how can we get freight from overseas to its final destination over here in the US, or from here in the US to another destination overseas? So it's a way to really reach your market as a customer and your suppliers that may not be here within the US. So how can you do that? Drayage is a great way to do that for them. Our next question here is, what is a drop fee in drayage? This is something that's really important. As a customer, you wanna make sure that you're aware of all the different fees, right, that might incur. And you may hear, oh, there's a drop fee on this particular load or this particular shipment, this particular container. So a drop fee, typically what you'll see with this is, in traditional shipments where a container is picking up or delivering, they are being loaded and or unloaded right then and there, what we call live, right? However, with a drop container, if the receiver says, hey, listen, I need you to drop this container off today. We might get to it today, probably gonna unload it tomorrow. We'll call you or we'll email you, we'll advise you once it's unloaded. And then once it's unloaded, you'll come back and pick it up another day. So that's when you're gonna incur what we call a drop fee. That driver is gonna have to drop this container off and come back at a different time to pick it back up. So you will see that from time to time. So as a customer, you do want to make sure that you're talking to those shippers and receivers to get a full understanding of, hey, what's needed for this container? Are we loading or unloading live, or are we loading and unloading as a drop, okay? Our next question is, what is a chassis and who owns them? So a chassis is essentially the underbody or the underpart of the actual truck per se, or the container. It's what the container sits on. Pickup trucks have chassis. Your 53-foot dry vans have chassis. So carriers, drayage carriers don't own these chassis typically. The majority of carriers do not own a chassis. So the carriers actually have to rent these chassis from the depots, from the terminals, from the ports. They'll go and pick up that chassis, and then once they're at the port and they've got the chassis hooked on, that's when a crane's gonna come over and load that container on top of the actual chassis. Our next question is, what is overweight for drayage? This is a really good question as well. Every carrier is slightly different, but typically universally there are some general limits as far as the weight that a carrier can handle. So you have different types of containers and different size containers. We're gonna have 20-foot containers and 40-foot containers. Those are typically your standard sizes for ocean containers. And then we have refrigerated containers that we call reefers, so you may hear that term, and your dry containers. So for reefer containers, they're gonna be able to hold slightly less than your dry containers because they're holding freight that's heavier, right? Refrigerated freight, frozen goods, cold goods, and then sometimes these reefer containers have what we call generators, gen sets that are connected to them as well. Those are gonna add extra weight. So for a 20-foot refrigerated container, you're looking at about 36,000 pounds, up to 38 possibly. And then your 40-foot reefer containers, you're looking at about that 38,000, maybe up to 40,000 pounds. Now for your dry containers, they can handle a bit more. So for a dry 20-foot container, about 38 to 40,000 pounds. And then for your 40-foot containers, you're looking at a max weight of anywhere from 42, sometimes even up to 44,000 pounds a carrier can handle. Again, it does vary slightly from carrier to carrier what their limits are. So make sure you're having that conversation and talking to your account manager, your business development representative here at Trinity, so you can get a full scope of the weights that can actually be handled. That is important when freight's coming from overseas. You want to make sure that those containers are being loaded correctly. Our next question is, who needs drayage? Well, if I'm talking to you, so you're gonna need drayage, right? Every customer needs drayage. Why do you need it? We talked a little bit about why, but it's a great tool, a great mode to have. As a customer, if you're talking to other suppliers overseas, you wanna be able to service them, right? This is a great way to be able to say, hey, listen, not only can we get your freight from Germany to California, but we can do that final mile delivery for you as well to the receiver. So again, drayage, it just makes everyone have more to offer as far as another mode and another way to move that freight. There's more than LTL, there's more than just traditional truckload, there's more than just sprinters out there. So make sure you're contacting us so that we can definitely help with all those needs for you. Our last and final question, how is drayage cost calculated? This is a great question as well. So as a customer of Trinity Logistics, we want to make sure that we're transparent with you and that you understand and you know all of the different charges that you may see or that may come across your lap, right? So typically you're gonna have 3 charges that you're probably gonna see on most of your drayage quotes. That's going to be a line haul. So that's moving the freight from point A to point B. That's also going to be your fuel surcharge that's tacked on. Your fuel surcharge is a percentage of your line haul. And then you're also going to see that chassis charge. So we did mention and we did talk about chassis, right? Those chassis, most carriers do not own those. They're renting those. So those are the top 3 charges you will see the most. As far as any additional charges, typically your account manager, your business development representative here at Trinity, your advisor here at Trinity, we're also going to try to give you a list of potential charges that may arise, such as that overweight fee, or if there's a drop fee. You may see, hey, if there's a hazmat fee or a refrigerated fee. Those are just a few different fees you may see that may arise. But again, As your logistics advisor, as your trusted advisor, we're gonna make sure that we're communicating all those potential fees for you, just so that way you know exactly what you're being charged for here at Trinity Logistics for that move. So that's a wrap. I hope you've learned a little bit more about drayage shipping. And if you have any other questions, logistics questions that is, head on over to trinitylogistics.com to read more of our content or reach out to our team of experts.